think the gospel is expansive. The gospel is not always inclusive. But the liberating gospel includes who the world excludes.
Welcome to Candler in Conversation, the podcast where Candler School of Theology faculty, staff, students, and alumni share their stories, their scholarship, and the theological questions that shape them. The show is proudly produced by the Candler Foundry, and I'm your host of the Scholar Unscripted series, Krista Lee. Hi, and welcome to the Candler in Conversation podcast. I am so excited because today we have with us the Reverend Dr. Allison Henderson Brooks. Welcome to Candler in Conversation.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yep. So as you know, this is our Scholar Unscripted series. So you do not know what I'm going to ask you today.
I do not.
But it's all about the person behind the CD.
Okay.
So the first question I want to ask you, for you all who don't know, anyone who's ever met you always talks about your light, your joy. Like they just reference an experience with you and say, oh, she's such a wonderful human being. So where does your light come from?
My light comes from just the daily truth that life is a gift. That midnights do not have to turn into mornings and mornings don't have to turn into midnight. And so every moment between morning and midnight that we're given, it is an opportunity to be your best self, no matter who's around. Yeah. You just have to be your best self. As I would say, praise to the Creator for the gift and also as a testimony to the gift that you have. And so it's an acknowledgement that I am here, that I know I'm here, that I own that I am here, and that I know that I bring something to the table. So yeah,
absolutely. And how did you develop that? Like now you know how to show up. You have this way of being. But tell us about the journey to get there.
You know, I don't think it was a journey. In my house, it was a mandate. It was an expectation. My grandmother used to say, act like where you're going and look like where you're going and act like where you are. And, you know, just when you enter a room, be there, right? Be sharp. Speak. Project your voice, right? If you have something to say it. If you don't, sit there and listen, right? 2 ears and 1 tongue so you can listen twice as much as you speak. And so I was taught presence. I was taught posture. I was taught projection. And I think, you know, growing up in the Baptist church as children, you had to memorize your speeches. When you stood before the congregation, there was no reading. It was intonation, formation, pitch. You are standing there, you know, shoulders squared. That's just what we do. And so it's who I am. It's who I would say, been reared and prayed over to be. Yeah.
Reared and prayed over to be.
Yeah.
And now here you are at Candler School of Theology. And you've had many roles here.
Yeah.
Was there a through line? Did you always see, like when you first came as a student in 2017 and then you worked with DEI and you worked with the Doctor of Ministry program, did you always know that you would end up here?
Absolutely. And I think I knew that I would end up beyond here. One, I do people for a living. I know hospitality is a strong, it's a towering strength of mine, but it's also a hospitality principle. How do we entertain the stranger? And after that moment, how then does the stranger become family or colleague? And so I do people for a living. I don't think that we waste any of our giftings. And so working 12 years in hospitality, whether it's 5 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you're on.
Yeah.
And so I love people. And I think when you prioritize the experiences of people, plus your own excellence in whatever craft or vocation you're working, people make the difference. And when you prioritize people and you prioritize those experiences with people, then the sky really is the limit. And the sky, where the sky stops is where God is just beginning. And so the sky is human limit. And above the sky is really God's favor. And so either way you go, you're still doing what you've been gifted to do.
Speaking of theology, you are a phenomenal preacher, known nationally for the way that you're able to articulate the word of God. And one of the things you always say that I love is the liberative gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yes.
So what has the gospel liberated you to do?
1, to be my authentic self. 2, to speak truth to power, no matter who is in the room. And 3, to make the language not sweat. Toni Morrison says that. The language must not sweat. And so the preached word can't be so erudite that the average listener cannot hear it and see themselves in what they've heard, right? Mm. It has to be as plain as a 5-year-old can pick it up and recite to me after worship what they got from the text. Mm-hmm. I think the gospel is expansive. The gospel is not always inclusive, but the liberating gospel includes who the world excludes. I also think, the particular, the passage where, young men will dream dreams, right? All of these things. How does the gospel help to craft a reframing of your lived reality so that you can do exactly what it says? Mm. You can walk through fire and not be burned, right? You can go through flood, not afraid, because the water will not overtake you, right? Those are not just, metaphors. That's a blueprint for how you live by faith. And the liberative gospel makes your faith come alive, right? It's, Migliore says, a faith that seeks understanding. I would say, for me, liberation theology and a liberative hermeneutic for preaching the gospel is faith that affirms who I am, just as I am, right? Yeah. When people disqualify themselves, the first question I want to ask, you must think God is a failure. People don't go out on a limb to say, oh, God failed. No. So if God didn't fail, if God was clear and precise in God's laboratory of creation, live in what God did and what God called good, and then live in a way that your life will speak to that, not just for your good, but for God's glory. And so I believe what the text says about me. I believe what I say about myself. I believe those words of affirmation from my parents who have been now, in 2026, they have been deceased longer than I lived with them alive. Wow. And so I've lived the majority of my adult life without the presence of earthly parents. But I hear their voices clearly every day. Right? And so it means something to speak to people's lives, that they hold on to it and they believe what you said about them. That matters.
It does.
That matters. It's funny you say that. One of the young women that I mentored when I was in revenue management, I said, hey, I'm not going to be here long. I want to teach you everything I know. Her name's Sarah. She is now an SVP for the Convention Bureau. And she made a post when she got promoted 2 weeks ago. She said, there was a woman I worked for named Allison Henderson Brooks. And she said, I never will forget, I made a $20,000 mistake because I forgot to close a room code and we oversold the hotel. Whatever. Yeah. She said, she walks in, she looks at me and says, there's no crying in revenue management. So put your thinking cap on and how do we fix this so that your first mistake working for me does not overshadow, right, our entire relationship. And so I walked her through. It's like, this is what I would do, but I want to know what you're going to do. Like, I can make accommodation for a $20,000 loss in like 5 minutes, right? But I want you to know that these types of situations will always approach. But how do you handle it? How do you correct it? And so it was a beautiful post. I've not seen her in about 10 years. Wow. But she tells me all the time, she was like, I would not be SVP of the Convention Bureau if I hear you in my head. Yes. And I love that. Some of my associate ministers, it's like, Pastor, I hear you in my head. It's like, I know sometimes people think, I might be a little hard, but I require excellence. God requires excellence.
And that's the truth.
So you have to choose your heart. Is it harder to be lazy or is it harder to be excellence? I would hope that we would choose to be excellent, right? Choose the heart of excellence. Is it harder to acquiesce to your own insecurities or is it harder to step out of the boat, theologically speaking, and test the water and know how you felt when you heard the call to come on the water and what you did within to step out and when you realized that the water then became hard wood for you to walk forward. And so it's I have an unsatiable desire to be excellent for all things.
Yes.
Because it's my legacy.
Absolutely.
It's my legacy. Yeah.
Yeah. What is one of the greatest lessons you've learned so far, in particular, being a pastor?
Wow. One of the greatest lessons that I've learned so far in being a pastor is that you cannot do everything you want to do. You have to pace yourself. I often say that change happens at the speed of trust, and trust happens at the speed of intentionality. So you have to pick your 5. 5 is a number of grace. What can you do well? What 5 things can you do well during the course of the year? Do those 5 and sit down and wait until the next year. Pastoring is a taxing job. Working in churches are taxing. And so how do we expect people that are overtaxed to produce good work? Right? For example, in the summertime, based upon my context, my folks are retired grandparents. They are with their grandchildren from June until August. So you know what makes it easy on me to not overtax them when I know they're spending time with their family? We're going to lean into some of the resources we used during COVID. The Sunday after 4th of July, which is the first Sunday, we're going to pre-record for 45 minutes. I'll see y'all on the second Sunday, right? We're going to suspend Bible study because you can't progress without a pause. Break a rhythm. What else can you do, right? 10 minutes. What can you do for 10 minutes to develop a habit that will take us through the back half of the year? What type of creative sermon series can we do that not only fuels the preacher? So a colleague of mine in New Jersey is a huge Michael Jackson fan. We're going to do a meaningful musings on the music of Michael Jackson's sermon series. We plan together. People are loving it. I'm not a T-shirt person in the pulpit. I'm still getting out of not being in a robe, but same T-shirt, 2 different churches, 2 different preachers, 2 different styles, 1 sermon, 1 theme.
Wow.
And it's refueled my energy in a different kind of way because it's something the people need that too.
Yeah.
Right. We cannot overschedule as a pastor. We cannot overschedule stuff. I'm a mom.
Yeah.
I'm happily married. I work at Candler School of Theology. I'm not going to be at church on Friday nights. There's so many other things to do. You know what I mean? And so I purposely have a rhythm in terms of pastoring so that my people get a break. But yeah, you can't do everything that you want to. Every good idea in your head may not be a great, the execution of it may not be great, but you just try and try and try again. But 5 things, that's it. And so I finished my 5 things in May. All I'm kissing babies, hugging old folk, preaching, and, teaching Bible study on Monday Night Live. I also think, Pastor, how you name things matter. How you name things, how you market things. Do you start on time? Do you end on time? That's a motto for me for New Student Orientation. That's a motto for me for church. If I'm the only one there, we're still starting at 11 o'clock. And I'm getting you out at 11:50. If we're doing a midday Bible study, 10 minutes, hug and greet. I'm in my car at 12:05, right? So I think it's just marketing. But yeah, you can't do everything. I would also venture to say this, and then I'm sure you have more questions on that beautiful card. The church belongs to God. The people are God's people. And so I never say my church. This is God's church. Because when I want to do more than I have the capacity to do, if I say it's my church, then I am going to, or I will have the proclivity to not discern what the Spirit is saying about what needs to happen. I will say, I see a need, I need to meet the need and keep it moving. And so I always use the language, this is God's church. And I'm grateful that God has graced me and chosen me to do the work. Because I do believe God can sometimes get fed up with us.
Yes.
And if God does not grace you to do the work, God will find somebody else to do the work. And also, when we become overwhelmed and taxed, we don't know when to stop.
Yes.
But God will always sustain God's church. And so if it's God's church, it helps me in particular ensure that I have some healthy boundaries.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's God's church.
You've shared so many insightful things with us, and I'm sure that it comes from years of experience, years of lessons, things that have gone well and things that may have not gone well, but you've always learned something from them.
Yeah.
So what has been the most unscripted part of your journey?
Wow. The most unscripted part of my journey is that for the most part, with the exception of 2 opportunities, I've been invited to apply. I have not, I think my first real application was right out of college when I started in the hospitality industry. Ever since then until now, every promotion, every open opportunity has been an invitation to apply. Even for the church, I never applied. I didn't know the church existed. They found me. And I think if we lean into God's scripting, right? If you just do good work, Parker Palmer says, way will make room for way. And when you love what you do earnestly, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like your contribution to creation, right? As your reasonable service, right? To leave the world better than that which you've come. But I've been invited, every opportunity that I have had from 2008 until now has been an invitation based upon observation of others, of the gifts and the gracings. And so I would say that would be it.
That's beautiful. God sees.
Yeah.
And God knows.
All the time. And God just doesn't just see in the wilderness. God sees in the open plain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's incredible. It's funny you say that. I this past weekend had the opportunity to return back to a place in central Illinois. It is known for soybeans and corn. When I first landed there for an internship, I said, God, I think I heard you incorrectly. But 23 years later, driving through 124 miles of open cornfields, wind turbines, soybeans, back to small town agri-life, I am reminded that God does not waste any opportunity, right? When I thought I would be selling commodities and retired by now, there was always more. Go from selling commodities to working in hospitality to now working at this beloved institution and pastoring at the same time. God sees, God knows what we need. God has provided, but it's also, I don't do well at giving myself kudos. But I have, in the low country of South Carolina, I've done what you told me to do. I believe up until now I've done everything. That double entendre there is beautiful. Everything that I've been asked to do, and I've tried to do it to the best of my ability. And so I am grateful, and I am open to more of God's unscripting. I live with anticipation and expectation that, today will be better than yesterday. And tomorrow, what I don't know, but I do know who holds my tomorrow, is going to bring about some new adventure that will fit precisely with where I am being called and led to live and lead and guide and inspire. And so, I'm excited about it.
You've given us so much. And so I do have one last question.
Only because it's you.
How do you help students unpack their suitcase?
Woo, yeah. I do that in several ways. Sometimes it's the mothering, I need you to come see me. And students always are a little hesitant. And when they come, they unpack what they've carried, which had they listened to me when I observed it, they would have been lighter earlier, right? Other times it's we need to do lunch. Or it's a parking lot. You look exhausted. What's going on? How may I assist you? So I think it just depends on the student. It depends on the severity, because a lot of times we know before we know.
Yes.
I think it's not a sixth sense. It's just, I don't know, it's mother wit, is what the womanist would call. You know what you know. But in graduate school, I think that we have to give people agency to tell what they know at the appointed time so that they are clear with what they're telling and they are clear with what they need. And so I think it depends. For example, I'll give a great example. I have a student who's starting the semester and let's say they're expecting a newborn baby.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way you can begin the semester and you're due at the beginning of the semester. So, I listen. I mean, it's, we make elaborate plans. I listen. I said, so this is what I'm going to do. You're not coming to new student orientation because you're about to give birth.
Yeah.
And babies do not care about our schedules or our plans.
Not at all.
And the extra stress that you're putting on yourself to start here. There's several entry points and starting points. And so I'm going to suggest that you lean into the wisdom. The language is very important, right? You lean into the wisdom, and I'll see you in January. And 90% of the time, it is a flood of unpacked tears that comes as you're trying to figure this all out. Let me help you. Let's cut through the cluttered feels of overstimulation, of overscheduling, of what do I want to say? Unnecessary stress that we put on ourselves. It's fine. God makes up time. It's totally fine. Time it's a God concept. It's not a human concept.
Yeah.
Right? You can come late and still finish early, right?
Yeah.
You can start, can start early and still finish late. And so I try to debunk those myths and I try to move smoothly with people through their own constraints of what is necessary and what is now. I think many times we have things in the now box that need to be in the not yet box.
Yes.
And between now and not yet is next. And then between and sometimes before now, next, and not yet is no. Right? We skip that no and go straight to the now.
Because I want it now.
Because I want it now. Great. What good is it if you do it now and it causes irreparable damage to your soul, to the interiority of your soul? You're not going to be any good for anybody else or your physical bodies, right? And so, I'm clear about that. So it just depends.
Yeah,
it's pastoral work. Pastoral work all the time.
For anyone that's listening, they know now.
Yes,
why
they don't know.
The Reverend Dr. Allison Henderson Brooks, affectionately known as AHB, you are the Associate Dean of Students. Because you just have a heart for this work. And I know that you don't like praise, but I have to say it here on this podcast. The spirit that you bring to this campus transforms lives. And it gets people to the finish line. So I thank you for your service. I thank you for your yes. I thank you for the ways that you show up and for the things that we don't see. For the things that you cover that students don't even know, you put out that fire long before it touched them.
Right.
And so just thank you for using God's gifts.
Wow. And thank you. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Listen, miles to go before we sleep. And I am proud of the work that you are doing and how you're coming alive, right? That Howard Thurman, don't ask what the world needs, but ask yourself what makes you come alive and go and do that. For what the world needs, what Candler needs are more people to come alive. And so I am proud of you as well. Thank you for your affirmations. They certainly mean the world to me, but it is an honor to do this work. And so I pray that I can be effective as long as God allows me to do this work. So,
Thank you so much.
The joy is all mine. Thank you.